Okay, so now I'm going to be reviewing Leprechaun 3, which came out in 1995. It's directed by Brian Trenchant Smith, and the guy who does the music, because I have to mention him, is Dennis Michael Tini, and I think he did the music for Witchboard and Night of the Demons. I think his brother, I think it's his brother, Kevin Tenney, he did Witchboard and directed Witchboard and Night of the Demons. Now, Night of the Demons is one of my favorite movies, so I had to mention that. But when we get into the cast, of course, we got Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun, John Gattens as Scott McCoy, Lee Armstrong as Tammy Larson, John DeMita as Fazio, Michael Callan as Mitch, and Caroline Williams as Loretta. And most people already know Caroline Williams. And I'll put Marcelio Tubert, who plays Gupta. Most horror fans already know who Caroline Williams is. She's been in a lot of horror movies. I think one of the her best known ones is she played Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. But anyways, this was the first Leprechaun movie that went straight to video, and which is kind of surprising if you don't know. If you didn't know that the first two were theatrical releases, because they don't look like theatrical releases. They look really low budget, like set wise and all that. So it'd be kind of, if you didn't know, it would be kind of surprising to know that this was the first straight to video release. This one's another kind of like its own little movie. It doesn't follow one or two at all, besides maybe a little bit with the lore. But this one is set in Las Vegas, and a old man, he had like a lot of limbs cut off and stuff. He brings in this statue to a pawn shop, and he says, I'll give you money for this. He said, I just want to get out of town. And it's a statue of a leprechaun. He's petrified, and there's a medallion around his neck. And he said, and has this pot of gold and everything. And the guy said, I'll give you this, but you cannot take the medallion off. And the shop owner, pawn shop owner, he kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, I won't do it as long as you get out my sight. And gives the guy $20, which I thought was weird. And the guy leaves. And then, so the pawn shop owner takes the medallion off of the leprechaun, and then the leprechaun starts, threatening him and all that. And there's this whole thing for a good bit where the leprechaun and I think the guy's name was Gupta, the pawn shop owner, are he's trying to reason with him so he could get half of his pot of gold, and then he eventually gets killed. I really don't remember his death now. I don't think they showed it. I think he lifts up the leprechaun lifts up like a crowbar or something, was about smacking with it, and it cuts away. But anyways, there's a young man named Scott. He's going to Vegas too, but he's actually going to Los Angeles to go to college. And he finds a woman broke down on the side of the road. Her car is broken down on the side of the road, and her name is Tammy. And she's like, well, can you give me a ride to my job? And then he's like, of course. And he finds out she works at a casino, but he's too young to go in there, because I think you gotta be like 21 or something. And he was too young, and she said, well, if I let you in, she's like, I don't want you to gamble or do anything like that. And he's like, okay, I won't. But of course, as soon as he goes in there, he starts doing it, and he starts losing his money. And so, while he's at the craps table, he's losing. Caroline Williams' character, she plays like this very vain, like casino worker. She's like very vain and stuck up. she's like, and greedy. She's like, he has like a Rolex on or something. She's like, you could go pawn that and come back and you could make a good enough money off of it. And he's like, okay, so he goes next door. He finds, the leprechaun, not the leprechaun. He finds the dead body, and then he finds a gold coin. He takes the gold coin, goes across, and he says, because there's this thing I forgot to mention earlier. The pawn shop owner there's a computer, and he puts in this disc, and it's about like folklores and legends, and he's watching one about leprechauns, which that thing goes on for a long ass time. I don't know if it's like looping or something, but it was just a long ass video about leprechauns. But anyways, the guy sees the video, Scott, when he goes over, he sees the video playing, and he finds a gold coin. And they said, if you find a gold, and on the video, they say if you find a gold coin and you wish on it, that your wish will come true. So Scott says, I wish I was over at the casino having a winning streak. And he goes back it transports him back to the casino, and he's actually on a winning streak. And this pisses off the casino owner because he's kind of a cheapskate, and just all the characters in the movie are pretty like dishonest and scummy besides Scott and Tammy. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this one. There's also a magician that Tammy works for named Fazio, who's like the same way greedy. He just wants to make it to the top. And basically, all these characters in the casino get a hold of a coin, and they wish for something, and it comes true. And then after all these wishes come true, they end up dying in horrible ways. That's basically the plot of this movie. And then one character, the character Scott, he gets bit by the leprechaun, and he's turned into like a were leprechaun for some reason, which I didn't know. They didn't establish that in the first two movies, but it's a different movie now. So, in this one, okay, so with the acting's fine, and most of it is mainly the older characters, like Caroline Williams. She was pretty good for what she had to do. The guy who played, I think his name is Marty, the casino owner, he was alright. And the guy who played Fazio, he was, he was pretty good too. The guy who plays Scott, I really didn't like him. And I recently watched the Witchboard movies, and he was in Witchboard 2. And I could tell it was him because of how he talks, like his teeth, and I know it's weird, like his teeth and stuff. He was just annoying to me sometimes, like his face and stuff was. And he wasn't that good of an actor to me. The girl who plays Tammy, she's alright. Like, she's not in the movie that much, and most of the time she just looks like she's bored, or she overacts in some scenes. Like when she falls in love with because the leprechaun puts a spell on her so Marty can fall in love, or she can fall in love with Marty or something like that. And she like overacts in that scene, and I think it's just because she has a curse on her to make her overly sexual. Uh, um, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting really hot out here. So some of the kills in this are pretty good. There's one, the one I was getting to. One of the kills is I think his name is Marty, the casino owner. He grabs the coin, but he doesn't know. Like Caroline Williams' character is saying, like, if you wish on this coin, stuff will happen. And he doesn't believe her, and he goes, oh yeah, well I wish that I could sleep with that Tammy girl. And then it happens, it puts a curse on Tammy, and it makes her like very over sexualized and all that, and she ends up going up into the room with Marty. And then the leprechaun is up there because he's trying to get his gold coin, but he's hiding behind the television set, and he's like, he puts on, because when Tammy's up there, she's like stripping in front of Marty or whatever, and then for some reason she snaps out of it and she freaks out and she hits Marty, and then Marty fires her and then all that. But Marty's watching TV, and then he sees a young woman, scantily clad, and then he goes, "Oh, I want her," and she crawls out the TV, and they start making out, and trying, have sex, whatever, and then the Leprechaun's playing like ads in the back, saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, Marty," this and that, and it's like freaking the guy out, and um, then like for some reason the girl turns into a robot and kills him, and it was really like a really stupid scene. And then Caroline Williams scene, like death scene, like she wants to be young and pretty, and this is the thing I didn't understand. It's like they kept calling her fat in the movie, and she's not even fat. Like I didn't get that. Like the Fazio character, because she's like, "Why won't you put me in one of your shows?" And he said, "Well, you won't fit the costume." And he's like, "You should be 20 years younger," in which she even look that damn old either. And he's like, I mean, 20 pounds lighter. And I'm like, she's not even fat. Um, but uh, back to her death scene. Now, when I said she wants to be younger and more pretty and skinny, because she's not even fat. That makes no sense to me. But so she does, and then the leprechaun comes after her, and then he starts expanding everything on her, like her lips. He starts making her lips big, and her breasts, and her butt, and it spans out too much, then she explodes. And then Fazio, he gets a good death scene too. Um, he wants, he's doing like his magician act, and the leprechaun comes and they put him in this, or leprechaun puts Fazio in like the box where, you saw someone in half and you split it open, whatever, and, they're really not sawed in half, but he is really getting sawed in half, and then you see him get split open, and the leprechaun opens it, and you just see like his guts and stuff. And I thought that scene was pretty good. Death scene was pretty good. I think that was all the death scenes in this. Then the Scott character, he's slowly turned into a leprechaun, and it's kind of like offensive, like if you want to call it that, because like when I first watched it, I'm like, wow, that's kind of offensive. Not, I don't get offended, anyways, but no, about a lot of stuff, but it wasn't. I mean, it might be offensive to some people, because like when he's turning into the leprechaun, he starts like doing shit that the leprechaun likes. Like he goes to this restaurant and starts eating like a lot of potatoes, and starts drinking and stuff, and I don't know, it's like a lot of Irish stereotypes. Um then I just had to mention that for some reason. I always thought that was funny though. I was like, that's kind of offensive to Irish people. Like all they do is drink and eat potatoes. And then so they at the end they confront the leprechaun, and he kind of gets a crummy death, because in this one, because his death changes all the time. In this one, if you mess with this pot of gold, somehow destroy his pot of gold, you end up killing him. So in this, they set a pot of gold on fire, and it kills the leprechaun, and for some reason he's like flying through the air and stuff. And it was like, I don't know. It wasn't that great of a death scene. I still think the death scene in part 1 is still the best. But anyways, so I guess like when the leprechaun dies, it reverses the curse on Scott, and he becomes human again. Yeah, I don't know if I'm really missing anything else on this movie. Um, And I just watched it recently too, and I kind of forgot about some things. There was another death scene I do remember where like Scott's taken to the hospital because they're doing like, oh, I actually got to mention this line too, because he's turning into a leprechaun, and then he goes to the doctors, and the doctors have him like strapped down and stuff, and they go like, "Oh, hold on, young man, we gotta ask you this. This may result in your life or your death." And they're like, do you have health insurance?" And that scene just made me laugh because it's like, damn, this movie came out 20 something years ago, and that joke still works today. And then like they're sitting there saying like if the doctor and the nurse they're sitting there talking like if he doesn't make it, um that will, because they find like a wad of cash in his jeans and stuff, and they're like, if he doesn't make it, we're gonna cash this in and this and that. And they're like, oh yeah, should we do more tests on him? They're like, yeah, we can do MRIs and all that. And then we're like, we'll start from all the tests from, we'll start with A first and then B. And then it was just kind of funny how they were talking about taking advantage of this van because he had a lot of money. And then, but in the morgue, Leprechaun stabs a guy, but I think you only see like the aftermath of it. He like sticks like a bunch of like medical instruments in him. Um, the music in it was pretty good too. It was like the only music that really stuck out to me in these first three movies. Um, yeah, I don't, I don't know really what else to say. I'll probably consider it my second favorite in the franchise so far. There's a lot of good humor in it, and there's a lot of just silly stuff in it. It's set in Vegas, like, so like the leprechaun meets like an Elvis impersonator, and they're sitting there playing around and stuff for a little bit. But it's a good movie. It's kind of funnish. Um, it's not as fun as I remember it being before, and it's maybe because I'm older now, so it doesn't have like the same impact. But yeah, anyways, that's my review.